Hello, how are you? Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well. This is Miss Williams. Mr. Person's going to be leading this discussion, and he'll be on soon. You'll notice, I believe down at the bottom, there's a button there. There's a chat feature. If you have any questions, you're welcome to post those in there, or you can also unmute yourself and just ask them after he does his little spiel.
Jamie, can you hear okay?
Yep, perfect.
Looks like we're getting quite a few people logging on, huh?
Yeah, 26 so far.
Good deal.
A few of you have asked if this will be recorded. Yeah, we are currently recording it, so we will share it with you out there somewhere, whether it's on Facebook or on the web page, or but we'll post it somewhere so people that couldn't be on here can access it.
Over to where?
You put the headphones on.
I don't want the headphones on.
Then play it.
Fuck!
Please turn your microphone off, Oliver.
Yeah, they can hear me. Oh, jeez. Get back off. I'm just gonna use this.
Okay, sorry.
So up on the corner of your picture, you can mute yourself. And if everybody wants to mute themselves, and then you're welcome to unmute when you have questions. But if everybody can be muted, that works out
Is this
much
muted?
better, so
No.
there's not background noise.
Is it not muted?
No, press the button.
Jamie, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, it's 12 o'clock, and just to remain punctual and you know, respect everybody's schedule, we're going to get started with this. Jamie, anything technical that you need to share with me before we get started?
Nope, I think you're ready to go.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody to our CMR parent or concerned, just people interested in what's going on at CMR Zoom meeting. I'm guessing that some of you are probably well versed in having meetings and dialogue via Zoom. I've used it an awful lot in the last several weeks. I've got my earphones in right now, and I'm actually kind of getting sore ears. I've been doing interviews for a science teacher all morning. And to try to do that and balance phone calls and emails and text messages and all the different planning and coordination that has to occur during this very challenging time. That's just the way it is right now. But again, I welcome that you all here. The format for today is for me to address some of the things that were covered on the invite for this Zoom. It was shared via the CMR Remind app. It was on our webpage, and it was also on the CMR Facebook page, that we're going to talk a little bit about our grading scenario. We're going to talk a little bit about our graduation scenario. And then I think we're going to talk also about the governor's update yesterday on whether or not school will resume in the state of Montana, and then more specifically in Great Falls Public Schools. And we're going to cover those details in that order. Jamie had mentioned and suggested to some of you, right now it's probably best with a large group in attendance like this to mute your microphone. And then there'll be an opportunity, hopefully, to give everybody a voice if you have some questions. But there's also a chat feature on the Zoom. If you haven't seen that, if you kind of hover down in the lower taskbar, you'll see some chat, and you can send in some chat inquiries as well. And we're going to do our very best. I'm not very good at running these meetings and responding to those chat inquiries at the same time, but you see up in the left-hand corner, at least that's where she looks at on my screen here. Jamie Williams is a media center specialist, department leader, and instructional coach at CMR, and I want to thank her for coordinating this and many other efforts on the technology side of dealing with a very, very, very challenging situation that we've been dealing with. And I want to thank all you as parents and community members, and maybe there's some teachers out there, maybe there's some students out there. I'm not really sure who all's in attendance today. Looks like we have at least 70 participants, so that's pretty awesome. But this has been very difficult. It's been very difficult for the world. It's been very difficult for our local community. And my role, of course, specifically as the principal of CM Russell High School, is to try to maintain as much education and much learning and as much communication, as much planning and as much dissemination of information as we possibly can. And it's been very difficult to do that because of the various unknowns that we deal with and the fact that the rule book seems like it changes quite a bit. And I just want to say, if we can remain patient as we navigate through some of these difficult decisions, that's probably the best strategy, because we are waiting for still some directives on how the governor's directives yesterday about reopening the state of Montana is going to impact us at the local level, and particularly with Great Falls Public Schools. So the first question, as I said, on school resuming, the governor did indicate that schools will have the ability to resume on May 7th, which is right around the corner. And if that were to happen, of course, it does not leave a lot of time left in the school year for a traditional setting. But all of those decisions have to be made by the Board of Trustees. That's not a decision I can make at CMR for our high school. It's not necessarily a decision Superintendent Moore will be able to make without getting lots of input from City County Health, from the Office of Public Instruction, and of course making those decisions, number one, to keep it manageable, to keep it efficient, but also to keep it safe with the unknowns. And that's been the interesting part of this whole process, is just the unknowns that we deal with. So just to give you an update, I attended a meeting last night, which gave the district administration a little bit of time to process Governor Bullock's information and updates, that the Great Falls Public Schools Board will have a work session on Monday the 28th to discuss all of the pros and cons of opening up schools for the remainder of the school years within a traditional setting. They will not act on the decision and will not make a decision until the May 4th board meeting. And you have to understand that there's lots of details that have to be taken into consideration to make a decision like that. As you all know, we've been doing remote learning for a number of weeks now. And in some cases, I just got off the phone with a couple of our high school seniors, and they say, hey, they're surviving, but they're disappointed in the fact that they can't be with their classmates, they can't be with their teachers, they can't play tennis, they can't play in the concerts, they can't play or participate in the drama production. So obviously, we're all missing out on an awful lot. But I think at the end of the day, everybody's trying to do their very best with a very difficult and very challenging situation to make the most of what we can do in terms of the constraints. So will we resume school on May 7th? Well, that answer will be determined at the board meeting on May 4th. When you look at the documents that Governor Bullock provided yesterday, and if you haven't had an opportunity to see those, there's links to it on the COVID-19 website, and he referenced that in his presentation yesterday. But there's lots of guidelines and considerations that need to be taken into consideration to make such a decision that impacts so many facets and so many variables. One of the recommendations is trying to have a mix of online and face-to-face instruction, because as we know, people have mixed opinions, mixed emotions about the whole situation with COVID-19, and is it safe to go out? Is it safe to resume? Or do we need to stay within kind of a stay-at-home order or shelter in place, for an extended period of time? So one of the considerations that our board's probably going to have to hear is, how are we going to be able to have a combination of face-to-face instruction and hybridize that with the remote learning that has been occurring for the last several weeks, I guess up to a month now. One of the recommendations from the governor's office is to consider the use of face coverings by all staff members and students. We have, close to 1,300 kids in our school, and at any time, 150 staff members, both teachers and classified staff. I think that would be a very challenging situation to have folks all masked up and to try to deliver some kind of normalcy in learning experience. Another recommendation is to keep students in the same group and in the same classroom all day and have teachers rotating with practical. And in a comprehensive high school and lots of classes that kids take that are activity-based or project-based or hands-on and very, very specific instruments and technology and tools for that particular curricular area, you know, having kids stay in one group and having teachers rotate doesn't seem to be overly practical, at least with the large comprehensive delivery that we have. There's another recommendation of consider having students eating lunch within the classroom to help limit the mixing of students. That again is a constraint with the cafeteria scenario that we have and an open campus that kids are accustomed to. That's a real challenge at our high school. One of the recommendations is to cancel extracurricular activities. We heard from the Montana High School Association yesterday that all spring sports, track, softball, tennis, are canceled for the remainder of the year. And my heart goes out to those kids and those parents and those coaches and those fans that embrace all that high school has to offer. And just to talk to a senior today that is a very, very high caliber student and a high caliber athlete and not have that individual have a chance to participate in that endeavor during her senior year. Again, it's heartbreaking, but she's taken it, you know, in stride and knows that, you know what, we will move on from this. We will all be stronger as a result of it. Another recommendation is consider reducing bus loads to allow one student per seat. Well, if you've ever spent time out in the bus loop at any of our schools, that is just not realistic. Another scenario that it is a reality is that some parents are not going to feel safe sending their kids to school. And parents have that right to make that determination for the safety and health and well-being of their child. And so again, if we have a portion of our kids coming to school, a portion of our kids not in school, a portion of our kids expecting face-to-face, and a portion expecting the online distance learning, you can see where that would be problematic. My kudos to our teaching staff and our clerical staff and all of our support individuals that have tried to make the best of this situation. You know, we had a meeting with our staff on a Wednesday and told them that, you know what, this coronavirus thing, it might come to Montana and it might get us to where we have to do something different, and just prepare if we need to send you home or tell you one night that you can't come to work the next day, but you got to teach from home. Just think about it. And I guess me as an administrator, after going through several meetings and prepping for that, didn't really think that that would be a reality. Well, by the following Sunday, as administrators, we were all called up to the district office meeting for a evening meeting to prepare for it. And halfway through that meeting, we got the word from the governor that kids won't be coming tomorrow. And we got to meet with our staff and try to figure out again how to change working conditions and job descriptions overnight to prepare for us to roll things out on Wednesday. So that was a real challenge. And some of our teachers have adapted very well. A lot of our teachers have utilized those types of technological platforms in their instruction for years, but some haven't. And that's the beauty of a large school that we have, is we have a lot of different styles, a lot of different abilities that are demonstrated, and not one size fits all. But now we've tried to kind of put some constraints on them and say, now you've got to teach online, and you've got to do some videos, and you've got to use the Google Classroom, and your plan book's got to be linkable to all the different resources. So there again, that was a real challenge. And to try to bring people back and have individuals do it both ways, I think would be very problematic. So that's just something I think you need to keep into consideration, along with the fact that there's recommendations of limiting class sizes. You know, some of our music classes have 40 to 60 or more kids in them at any one time. Most of our other classes have a state limit of 30 kids, but to try to consider breaking those larger classes into smaller groups and staggering the day, or have kids alternate school days, you can see why all these decisions are going to be very challenging for our Board of Trustees. And when you look at all the AA districts around the state, we're dealing with that. I'm sure the Class A's and probably the Class B's, for some of the schools in counties where there are no cases and much smaller student bodies, it might be a little bit more manageable. So again, that information that not only impacts us as educators, but it impacts business owners, all the people that are getting into the phase of reopening. lots of bulleted lists on there of details that they need to think about. So keep in mind, we don't have that answer yet on whether or not school is going to resume on May 7th or at all. Or could it resume with a very, very individualized and customized scenario where kids that need extra remediation or additional support for their IEP or their 504, maybe we can start to have those kids come in and receive a little bit of face-to-face. But again, I am not the one in charge of making that decision. That is left up to local control, as Governor Bullock said yesterday, for the Board of Trustees, those elected officials, to make that decision. So that in a nutshell is the first situation on school resuming with a big question mark on my notes. And I will open it up right now if anybody would like to unmute. And again, we got to kind of be aware of the fact now we have over 80 participants. Just be aware of we might have multiple people trying to chime in, but we'll do our very best to try to answer any questions that any of you have regarding the school resuming scenario that we're dealing with as the first agenda item.
Someone asked, how can I share my information, my opinions with the school board? And in the comments, I put the school board's email address. You are welcome to email them. That is schoolboard@gfps.k12.mt.us. So you are welcome to email them.
Yes, thank you for that, Jamie. And just for the rest of you that aren't as aware, the Great Falls Public Schools homepage does have a link to the school board. It usually has all of the upcoming agenda and communication information. And I know that it's been out on the news media since yesterday that people can provide comment. And if you've never attended a Great Falls Public Schools board meeting, you do have the opportunity as a community member and as a citizen to speak. And whether or not that will continue to be a face-to-face or more of a Zoom scenario, I guess that will be up to the board. But yes, Jamie did outline some of the ways in which you can communicate with the Board of Trustees. So thank you for that.
There's another administrator on with us, and she had said that there'll be a parent survey probably coming out within the hour. You will see that on the GFPS Facebook page. So be looking for a parent survey that will be put out here in the next hour or this afternoon. Also looking for information.
Okay, thank you for that. Does anybody have any? Yes.
Was there ever talk about doing it like every other day, like a group of kids go like on a Monday and the next group Tuesday? Was that ever brought up?
You know, is that Jody? Hi, Jody.
It
I
is.
see you.
Yeah,
That's one of the items in terms of a possible consideration or a recommendation to alternate days. That, of course, is directly from the governor's recommendation. As far as what the board has been able to process or discuss yet, I am not aware of that, but I'm sure that's one of those considerations. And as a community member and as a parent, certainly that's a recommendation or a suggestion that you, if you do endorse that philosophy, I would feel free to share that. Again, I feel that being problematic with the fact that we do have an everyday schedule for our kids. The variation to that would be during semester tests where we alternate the schedule and extend the class periods, and our 7 a.m. or period 0 kids that traditionally do not meet on Wednesdays. But other than that, our system is designed for kids to follow their schedule, essentially, if they have a period 0, the most period 1 through 7, Monday through Friday. But again, that is one of the considerations that was presented in the governor's documentation from yesterday. So thank you for that, Jody.
Okay, thanks, Gary, and thanks for doing this. I think this is a great way to get it all out. It's awesome. So thank all of you guys for taking the time.
Well, you bet. I appreciate you being interested and wanting to participate in this. You'll see me look at my phone once in a while, and that's probably not the best, but in this day and age, I'm getting emails and text messages nonstop. And what I've asked Jamie Williams, who I've already acknowledged here, if she's got some chat questions on here, she'll text them to me. So I'll refer to that from time to time if there's a question that I think could be easily answered. But again, any other folks want to voice any concerns or ask some questions regarding to the first agenda item on school resuming? And before I conclude that, I do know that we've got some communication from some of the other AA districts, and it was shared from various superintendent meetings and administrative meetings that we've had in this same platform, that surveys have been done. And in some cases, it was about 50% of staff members felt safe to come back. So that's an HR, human resources, and staffing issue. And about 50% of families felt like it was safe to send their kids back to school. So you can just imagine the challenges of trying to deliver instruction for the 18 or 20 remaining days when about 50% of your kids there. And if we don't have staff members that are able to come in, possibly because of some compromised immune system or some other health issues, to bring substitutes in that scenario and try to pick up where we left off from this remote learning endeavor, again, fairly problematic. So I'm going to move on to the next item on here, which I know is a topic that a lot of you are very, very concerned with. And I know it sounds like I've got several emails, and I've tried to return a few parent phone calls today regarding the grade situation. And just to give you a little background, again, when we changed the way we deliver instruction across the board overnight and tell teachers, now take your computers and go home, or you can come into your room and work, you won't have students here. And students will be essentially learning in a variety of classrooms, i.e. their homes, their bedrooms, or wherever, some with adequate technology, some with no technology, some with minimal technology, some with great support and structure, some with less structure and support. It was a real challenge to try to get kids engaged in the process and to try to get kids to be doing schoolwork and try to resume learning. Without being specifically trained in an online format exclusively, one of the challenges was, well, how much work do we give kids? How much is the expectation? How much time? How do I give them tests? How does that look? Do I do Zoom meetings with them every single day for an hour and lecture and work problems and demonstrate and to use video clips, or do I scale it back? I will just say this, as the building administrator, having taken most of my education in a traditional setting, I'm a graduate of CM Russell High School and on to colleges in the state of Montana, and I've been in education for 31 years. Being face-to-face is the best scenario. It absolutely is. However, I did take some graduate work in an online format, and it has its place. It's very valuable at times, but I do not believe that it can replace the face-to-face interaction and dialogue and the reading of body language and the reading of confusion and questioning that kids may have that you can see when they're sitting in your classroom and when the teacher walks around to do checks for understanding. It's a lot more difficult when you're doing it via text message, email, or in an electronic format, whatever that platform may be. So as a building principal, I told my teachers, go ahead and slow down. Put the brakes on if you need to. You need to make sure that this is manageable for kids. And we heard a lot of feedback early on that kids were overwhelmed. And a lot of that was legitimate. Some of it was just the fact that sometimes kids thought this wasn't real. This was just an early spring break and a continuation of spring break. So we had to balance all that. But I've told my teachers, if you need to modify the curriculum delivery, please feel free to do so to best meet the needs of your kids, because this is not ideal, but we want to try to maintain and try to provide as much learning, as much advancement as we possibly can. That being said, when kids are not getting the same level of expectation or the same exposure to the board-approved curriculum, sometimes that makes it challenging. Well, it's really hard to figure out what's the grade going to be. And if a kid is really struggling, we don't want to necessarily have kids lower their grade point average and have them be subject to C's or D's when they're used to getting A's and B's. So a lot of dialogue amongst the AA principals. We get lots and lots and lots of emails from the Montana School Boards Association all day long with updates and inquiries from around the state and guidance from their legal experts that pass-fail may be an option. And so lots of conversation, lots of Zoom meetings just like this to talk about that. It was decided that the district would go pass-fail. Some of you probably just received a letter today. When I visited with a parent, it sounds like some of the parents received it a little bit earlier. But just to let you know, students right now, according to that letter, are going to receive passing grades if they meet proficiency, or failing grades if they do not meet proficiency. That was a decision that was made, again, with a lot of unknowns, a lot of really unanswered questions about how long this dilemma would last, and a lot of research was done on whether or not that would be palatable and fair to kids. And what it did is it kind of leveled that playing field a little bit because of the variations in the access to the technology for the main thing on whether or not kids can continue to perform in this type of environment. Well, of course, when that information became public, there's been lots of concerns about it, and I understand that. We have a lot of kids that are very conscientious and a lot of parents that are very conscientious in support of their students trying to achieve academically and try to perform, and A's on the report card is very important. A's on the transcript are very important, and B's in some cases, so certainly that is understandable. Just so you know, the passing grade is GPA neutral. It will have no negative impact on the GPA. On the other side of that coin, it would not have a positive impact on that situation either. So let's just say if a student had a cumulative GPA of about a 2.87 over X number of semesters, and they were really going to kick it in gear this semester and possibly get straight A's, those straight A's would influence their GPA positively on a cumulative standpoint. And of course, for those kids, that is a struggle. A lot of the inquiries that I've had is, this will negatively impact my kid in terms of scholarship, in terms of NCAA eligibility, in terms of entrance into military academies, and things of that nature. Well, lots of information has been disseminated to us across the nation from those entities. And a lot of institutions are realizing that they are going to have to understand that there will be P's on transcripts. But the more we talked about this and the more groups that we had reach out to us, and mostly very good dialogue, people thought, well, I don't necessarily agree with that. And again, you have to understand when this whole rule book has been rewritten multiple times in the last month, we make decisions to try to do what's best, but then we listen to our stakeholders and figure out maybe we need to go back and rethink this a little bit. So just to give you an update on grades right now, we are working on a process, excuse me, which is called an academic variance. It's a system we have in place right now where there's a unique individualized circumstance that requires us as a team committee in our school to rethink or revise or modify or accommodate to best meet the needs of an individual kid. We can make some of those decisions and acknowledge some of those requests. So this particular academic variance is being prepared. I saw a draft form between interviews right before this meeting. So I got to talk to my assistant superintendent to see what the status is. But to make a long story short there, we are going to more than likely, and again, based on the board's decision, have pass-fail be the default for this semester based on COVID-19. However, if people are desiring to have across the board letter grades versus that pass-fail, there will be an option to pursue that. So that will be an academic variance. And so that document is being sent out, it's being distributed in draft form right now amongst all of us. I probably got about 200 emails since this session started, so I hope to get to it here real soon. But I think that's best for kids and for parents to help with that situation. Excuse me, I've been on these things all day. I need some water. So here is well, I'll answer that question here in just a little bit. So just so you know right now, we are working on that process again to allow people who choose to go letter grades versus the pass-fail to provide that opportunity. We know at the NCAA clearinghouse for those types of kids that are going on for NCAA athletics was a big concern. They have released documentation that pass-fail will be acceptable. We know that college entrances and everything else with passes being, passing grades being GPA neutral, it would not impact them. But we understand that there is lots of places people go and lots of levels of higher education beyond high school that we may not know all the answers and we may not know all their criteria. And we know sometimes some of those organizations are not nearly as flexible as Great Falls Public Schools, and particularly CMR High School. we felt it was in the best interest of our kids and our community to revisit that scenario and allow that process to take place. So what I would ask that you do, those of you that are in attendance today, again, I compliment you taking time out of your day to be informed, to try to get the updated information. Just know that we are working on that process to accommodate that request to go letter grades versus pass fail. So I've seen quite a few little balloons come up. Thank you, good call. Ooh, what a relief. But I'll open it up to questions right now for folks if you have any questions regarding the grading scenario and the update that I've provided. Just another comment on that. Our teachers were very uncomfortable with that because we have our teachers want kids to do well. They want kids to be successful, and they know if a kid's coming into their class and they're motivated to earn an A, that makes for a more positive learning environment and much more engaging. And so a lot of them question that decision too. So again, it wasn't made easily, but it was made at the time with the information that we had that we thought would be best, that would release anxiety to some degree, particularly with the potential for a modified curriculum and modified content delivery. But again, we reflected on that and decided we needed to rethink that. So Jamie, do you have, I don't see any text from you specifically on that situation right now. I would suggest building a simple process for families to follow for academic variance. I'm going to try to answer that question. The normal academic variance process is pursued by the parent and the student by going to the counselor and getting a form and filling it out, and maybe changing some of the required coursework, or looking at some of the elective opportunities for kids, again, case by case. This particular academic variance is going to be specific to COVID-19, and according to my conversation with Superintendent Moore, will be mailed to all of our folks. I'm sure in addition to being mailed, it'll also be accessible on our website, and we'll just try to push that information out. And what I suggested in that meeting is that we fill out the details that due to COVID-19, I am petitioning to go from pass-fail to letter grades, and then just a couple things to check on there. These are the reasons why, because it's motivational for me, because I want to see a transcript with all A's or B's and not P's on it, or you think that it may impact scholarship opportunity and those types of things. So that is where we're at with that situation as far as the grading scenario. And again, I'll open it up to questions before we move on to graduation. And I know a lot of you are here because you are parents of seniors, and graduation is very relevant. I know graduation is relevant to all of our parents, but maybe not as immediate, particularly to our seniors. But everybody's welcome to stay. But one last chance for individuals if they want to ask questions or inquire about the grading and the academic variance process that I just communicated.
One of the parents had asked about, well, how will I know if my student's ready for, next year? We are going to have another one of these here probably in a week or so when we've got some more information, or 2 weeks, with our counseling department concerning scheduling. So some of those things will be answered during that time. So we'll let you know. We'll post that, and there'll be some information about that as to if your child's schedule might look different next year.
Yeah, and that's a very good question. Whoever threw that out there in this chat, again, it is very challenging when a teacher might have 150 students sitting at home and they haven't seen them face to face for a month. That student may be submitting work, but again, in terms of exactly how that work was completed, or how the assessments were taken, or if they had access to resources, or if the assessment had to be totally rethought of due to an online format, there might be some holes. There might be some academic slides here and achievement slides, and that's certainly not what any of us want. But we've also had lots of conversation about how the remediation process is going to look. We will do our best to get as thorough of an assessment of the learning throughout this semester for all of our students, and hopefully be able to expand not only with some general planned, generally planned summer school options for kids that have failed class through the credit recovery, but also provide some additional support. And you've probably seen where some of the federal CARES Act money is coming down to the local states, into the local school districts, both public and private schools, to be able to handle some of those academic slides, to be able to provide some additional support. And I know people don't want to hear this, but some of that remediation may have to continue throughout the summer and into next year. That's a big question mark right now, but we definitely want to be able to assess everybody's learning, everybody's ability, but we'll be doing some catch up. We'll be doing some catch up next fall. You know, business owners are going to be doing some catch up. Are just the community events. We're all going to be doing some catch up. And what I would recommend for all of you as a parent, or if you are a student here and you're concerned about some slides academically and the need for remediation, do not hesitate to reach out to the appropriate counselor for your child, associate principal, share those concerns, and we can try to do the best we can to assess that. I saw a question on there, will finals be issued this year? Well, again, based on the board's decision on school resuming, that will have a big impact on what finals are going to look like. I think a summative, cumulative assessment is necessary, again, to have kids be able to demonstrate proficiency, but those are going to be modified. You have to realize that some of those summative assessments are performance-based, where a teacher can take a kid through the wood shop and have them demonstrate their knowledge of tools and safety and you know, projects, and somebody doing a portfolio, or somebody doing a speech, or somebody doing something else. There's lots of different ways in which we summatively assess. We're continually trying to figure out what that's going to look like, but a lot of it will depend on the board's decision on what school are going to look like for the rest of the year. If the board comes out on that May 4th date and said we're going to continue with remote learning for the remainder of the year, then one of our focal areas will be to, again, help assist teachers prepare for a way to be able to assess kids and how they have done during this semester. And a lot of that helps them prepare for the next step, the next class, because they're taking prerequisites at this particular time. Jamie, were there any other questions about that second agenda item?
A few people asked about, will the variance for the pass and fail be, you can pick and choose classes, or will it be you have to choose one way or the other and it has to be for all classes?
Well, again, ultimately that will be presented from the district administration to the board to process, but the conversation is that will be either all or none. And what that will do is that will prevent what some feel would be cherry picking or giving people an unfair advantage and picking to have a letter grade in one class and not in another class. And again, when you look at class ranking and those types of things, that seems to be the best decision moving forward. So again, that document is not finalized yet. That process is not finalized yet, but it will hopefully be soon, so we can start getting ready to complete those variances for people to choose whether or not they want to have letter grades or pass fail. My assistant superintendent is calling me right now. I'm not going to answer it, but I've got several calls in here today for updates, just like all of us are getting calls about 24/7 during COVID-19. So Jamie, anything else before we move on to the graduation agenda item? You're muted, Jamie. I can't read your lips. You're still muted. We're moving on. Okay, you've intentionally muted yourself and you're not going to unmute, so I won't force you. Okay, so graduation. Again, lots of information, lots of feedback, lots of input about what graduation would look like. What I'd like to tell everybody here today is that we're going to graduate on May 29th at 6 p.m. at the Four Seasons Arena, like we have done over the last couple years. And it would be a traditional face-to-face large group gathering commencement exercises that we have done for the 50 plus years at CM Russell High School. I don't believe the city county health or the CDC recommendations are going to allow us to have it in a traditional format. However, we are working on getting all of the rules in place so we can try to make it as traditional as we possibly can. We have, I've been in contact with a couple of our seniors right now today, again, to try to get them lined up for some input on what that will look like once we know what the rules are. So if the city county health says we were not going to allow people to attend a face-to-face graduation, maybe only graduates, maybe only immediate family members, and if so, we need to maintain social distancing. It can only look like this or it can only look like that. We are still waiting for that direction. We are still waiting to figure out what those constraints are. But I will tell you, everybody, that we are absolutely doing everything in our power to try to make graduation as meaningful and make it an experience that everybody can remember, because we know when people set foot in our high schools as a freshman, and certainly well before that, when they enter into high school, graduation is kind of that capstone, that point that everybody is working towards. And the commencement exercises is a very, very nice way to recognize all of those kids for that good work. So there again, I expect that we will have some more direction on that in the near future. When I say near future, I'd like it by 1 o'clock, but I don't think that that's going to happen. There still needs to be a lot of collaboration and a lot of direction to make sure that we're maintaining all of the health guidelines from the directives that we get from City County Health as it comes into the Great Falls Public Schools. Could it be a hybridized, partial face-to-face, partial digital? Those options, everything is being explored. So again, once we have the rules in place, we are going to do that. Now, the superintendent has indicated that he has every desire to have graduation on the scheduled dates, and ours, of course, is on May 29th. With new information, with new updates, with new guidance, could that change? I think anything's possible. And we've seen over the last month or so, lots of things are possible. And lots of things are very frustrating. We want to know, we want to get back to normalcy. But please know that we're working to try to make sure that this detail and these informational items and whatnot are sent out to you so you know what to expect. I know a lot of you probably have family members from other states that had plane tickets ready to come and celebrate with your senior at this particular time. I don't know how that's going to be impacted, but as soon as we know, we will push that out. And again, we're trying to get input from our seniors. We're trying to get input. Oh, look at all the messages. I'm going to check this just to see if it's relevant to this conversation.
I'm going to jump in with a couple of things while he's
Go
doing
ahead.
that. Shalonda, thanks for posting. She'd said that on the military base for military families, the military is working on a graduation type ceremony on base prior to the school graduation. So if you're a military family, check in with military group, and they might be doing something there. Shalonda, do you want to add anything?
I know that doesn't help all the other students, and I wish I could help everybody, but this will give at least the military kiddos on base, whether you live off base or on base, if you want to reach out to me, we're working on, since the military families all live in a community, a parade, a drive-by parade, and then the actual base commander handing out just to the students, not open to everybody, at an outdoor location, a diploma, obviously just a piece of paper, but just to celebrate the kids in some way or form. And we're doing it ahead so that it doesn't interfere with the actual graduation should we get to do one.
And what about people that do not live on base?
You don't have to live on base, you just have to have base access.
Okay. Awesome, thank you.
Thank you for that. And I will just say that's the first I've heard that. And I can't say that, Great Falls Public Schools will be involved in that at all, because I don't know what our rules are, but I know that there's so many people reaching out with so many, offerings and suggestions and how can I help? And I appreciate that. And it's hard to call people because people want answers. They want to know. And sometimes when I call them and say, hey, I'm waiting on clarification from this because I can't make this decision until it comes down the proper channels. And again, primarily making sure that our community health officer says, yes, this is allowable, or no, this is not allowable. But all those opportunities, if we can get them, and Jamie Williams, through our CMR Facebook primarily manages that. I've done a few Facebook Lives on it, but just again, sending some messages, sending some emails just to let us know what is available. That would be great.
Charlotte, do you have your hand raised? Did you have a question? Sorry, we didn't get you on the last round. I forgot about you.
No, we were good. I wasn't sure. I kind of got late on the game. So this is all the information I wanted. I have a senior, so we're good. Thank you. I can't remove the hand raise. So that's okay. I'm good. I'm hearing everything. Yeah. I just want our seniors to be celebrated. Thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And again, we want that too. I mean, as an educator, again, gone through many of those as a student, as a parent, as an associate principal, as a teacher, as a principal. I mean, that's what we work so hard for all year and for all those years to shake those hands. Am I going to be allowed to shake a hand and flip a tassel? I don't know that. I usually shake about 300 plus hands every night at graduation and flip those tassels. Don't know still what that's going to look like. But again, we're going to do everything in our power to try to make it as special as we possibly can. But again, just please, I encourage you to be patient. I encourage you to, get the facts, and we will disseminate as soon as we are able to disseminate. My assistant superintendent, of course, she is my pipeline for direct communication. So she left me a message that she is out of her Zoom meeting and able for me to call her back. So at the conclusion of this meeting, I will certainly give her a call. How about any other questions, either related to graduation, or if we needed to go back and look at the grades or school resuming scenarios? I'm happy to try to answer what I can answer.
Somebody posted, will seniors be able to pick up honor cords at some point in the next few weeks if schools don't resume? I believe we had somebody from counseling on here. They can jump in and share if they want.
Yeah, well, we talked about that, I think, yesterday. I met with my associate principals. I've been doing a lot of Google Meet with my associate principals, but I did actually invite them to a meeting out in the Commons, and we were like 12 feet apart. We looked kind of silly, but we were practicing social distancing, I guess, to the best of our ability, and we needed to get out and get away from the screen a little bit. There will be a strategy to disseminate those honor stoles and honor cords. As soon as we get guideline on that, there again.
Carrie, can you hear
I
me?
don't know whose that is.
Yeah, we can, Brenda.
Can you hear me now, Jamie?
Yeah, I can hear you, Brenda. Carrie's muted. We can't hear Carrie.
Okay, so just in regards for any senior parent, as far as honor cords and honor stoles, we will be sending out postcards in the mail to those students who have qualified for receiving those. Those qualifications are met after 7 semesters, so we know who they would be. We'll get those cards in the mail. We don't know exactly the process yet, but there will be a process in place for students to pay for and pick up, or either whatever process we put in place, have sent to them those cords or stoles. Just so you know, students with a 3.75 cumulative GPA after 7 semesters to a 4.0 get to wear the honor stole, and students with a 3.5 to a 3.749 are awarded those honor cords. The stoles, I believe, are $15 and the cords will be $10. So we'll be informing those students and getting that information out.
Hey, Carrie, when there was a little bit of feedback, I muted everybody and it was you too. And so I don't know if you remember the last, I know, it worked out great. I don't know if you remember the last 30 seconds that you talked, but nobody heard that. I'm sure it was very good. So you might want to repeat that.
Well, thank you. I'm sure it was outstanding, but it's probably so outstanding I don't remember what I said. But I maybe was referencing the fact that Brenda Lowry is our department leader for the counseling department, and it kind of helps facilitate that along with one of my associate principals for the honor cords and honor stoles. So the dissemination plan, we can determine that and communicate that. For those of you that are interested in a yearbook, talk to Beth Britton, our yearbook advisor. The plant where those yearbooks are assembled obviously was affected by COVID-19 shutdowns, and there's probably going to be a delay on the yearbook, and that's unfortunate. She will provide updates as best we can, and we're still waiting to make sure that the diplomas are all going to be here because again, that plant and some of the issues with COVID-19. So we're dealing with this in a lot of different ways. And we're working through it. And again, I am so proud of our staff, not only our teaching staff, but our clerical, our paraprofessionals, our custodial staff, everybody at our school. And it's been very busy, probably as busy, if not more busy than it is during traditional, because when kids need an answer or parents want an answer, whether it's late in the evening or the weekends, we want to try to respond and try to understand that this has to be a very flexible time in the work that we do. Again, I am very pleased with all of you being here today. If you did not get your question answered, I greatly apologize. It's hard for me to keep up with all of the texts and all of the chats, but feel free to give me a call. My office phone is 268-6241 at CMR. And I guess I would say this, at this particular time, I would prefer a phone call than an email, because on a normal day, I get 250 to 300 emails that sometimes I don't get to until the evening. Now I'm saying that that's doubled or tripled because we can't have face-to-face dialogue, and we're getting so many updates, not only locally, but at the state level in terms of some of the rules that we're having to follow. So please don't hesitate to give me a call. A lot of times I'm not at my desk, I'm on these meetings. But I will check my voicemail and I will try to get back to you. And sometimes having that just conversation on the telephone might be a little bit better than an email, because sometimes electronic communication can be a challenge. But again, I encourage everybody to just be patient, be supportive, but also advocate. If you've got some ideas and if you've got some concerns, if you've got some suggestions, we're here to talk to you. If you're concerned about your son or daughter's academic progress, please reach out to the teachers. And if you feel like, those responses need to be picked up in terms of the pace, the child's counselor and their associate principals, they are working hard all day long, trying to accommodate that and facilitate that dialogue. And again, we just all need to work together. And I know emotions run high. It gets a little bit stressful. We all want to get back to normalcy. We want to see kids in the hallways and doing their thing, whether that happens before the end of this school year or not. We want to try to do what the best we can to culminate the class of 2020 and recognize them. And then, of course, what we do in this world of education, we prepare for the next year. And before you know it, the fall of 2020 will here. And I hope and pray that that will be as normal as it possibly can be. But we've got a lot of work left to do. A ton of work left to do between now and the end of the year. Encourage your sons and daughters to stay on top of their academics, fulfill those requirements, meet deadlines, but also advocate if they're struggling, if they're having some situations that's hindering their progress. We are here to help, and it's not an ideal situation, but we're going to make our way through this, and we're going to be stronger on the outside of it when we finish it. So, Jamie, if there are no other comments right now. But it looks like you're going to say something. I might mute you. No, go ahead.
I don't think you can mute me. Somebody did ask, which I think is a great question, hasn't been addressed, the last day for the seniors. Is that determined? Is that what was on the calendar?
At this point, typically they are off, that week before the rest of the kids. That Wednesday is normally their last day. I would say right now we're going to adhere to that. But there again, a lot of this might be dependent upon what the board has to say. So again, as soon as those details are disseminated, we will pass them on. But I would anticipate the seniors' last day is that Wednesday, so that's the 27th, I believe. And then, of course, the rest of the students the following Friday. So again, it's going to look a little different between now and the end of the school year, but we're going to make the best of it. And I know you guys are working hard as parents and supporting your students. And again, I thank you for your support and your understanding and your patience as we navigate through this very unknown and variable scenario called COVID-19. Okay, I'm going to check out. We'll try to do this again as best we can, but don't hesitate to reach out and hang in there and stay safe, everybody. Thank you so much.
So parents, we've got some of these scheduled every Tuesday and Thursday for the next couple weeks. So counseling staff will get on and do some. We've also got our special education staff that will be offering how to support students with disabilities at home. So we've got a variety of these. I'm going to try to get those all posted here for you soon. We're finalizing just some dates on a few of them, but be looking for these. We're going to do them every Tuesday and Thursday at 12. I saw some people posted some questions were things that we covered earlier. This is recorded and we will upload it somewhere. Be watching. It'll probably be on the webpage, and we'll also have it like out on Facebook. So you can find the recording and get information there. Anybody have any questions before we end?
Jamie, can you hear me? It's Brenda.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. There was a question on here about scholarship awards night. I just had a Zoom meeting yesterday with the foundation and the counselors that kind of coordinate scholarships over at Great Falls High. Our scholarship night was scheduled to happen on May 4th. That night has been canceled, as well as Great Falls High's scholarship awards night. We are not going to be permitted to have an evening event, kind of meet and greet face-to-face type event that we've always had. So we are working on coming up with some digital ways to recognize our seniors that would have received awards that night. The foundation is going to look at a publication type thing. They're still in the works right now, so I can't speak completely specifically to that. But those students who would have been recognized will be receiving letters at home, kind of outlining what we'll do. We'll push that information out. We'll be mailing home all of the instructions for any scholarships received. So watch for that information to come in the mail. And please, if you have questions, email or call me.
Awesome. Thanks, Brenda. Somebody said, can we put senior pictures on the website? I think that's a great idea. I will probably, again, post something out there and ask seniors to turn those in, and we can circulate those on the website or put them on Facebook. So just kind of watch for that. And I think that's a great idea. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. If anybody has any questions, this is your last chance. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.